Hey everybody, last week I went to Rwanda, more specifically Kigali, the capital city, and then straight from there traveled on to New Delhi in India. It's interesting when you think about the African story vis-a-vis the Indian story. Here are two countries, here are two different parts of the world. Firstly, India has got now over 1 billion people, and Africa itself will have over 1 billion people in 2040. Here's some key lessons about Rwanda that I thought were fascinating to reflect on. Firstly, Rwanda, it's reputationally there that this is a nation that is probably one of the cleanest cities in the continent. But that's not what took my breath away. What took my breath away was that here was a nation that in '94 had experienced one of the worst genocides in history. Here was a war that sought to eliminate another whole race, just by distinctions that really were superficial. Citizens who rose up against each other in a government-sponsored genocide, one of the most heinous acts of evil I have ever seen. If there's ever a story about what hell on earth looks like, that was the image that was invoked when I went to Kigali. Yet, in the same length of time, almost similar, in '94, we were undergoing our own transition. I look at what they've done with what took place post that heinous crime. Here, under the leadership of Paul Kagame, they successfully managed to build an incredible city. It is not only clean, but it is innovative. It is a city that when you see everywhere, you could see signs that say, "Visit Rwanda." This is certainly a country on the up. It's a country that obeys its own laws. It ensures that there's law enforcement, and ultimately, it has no tolerance for corruption and demonstrates what the African continent can tell as a story. Our great challenge is that when I place Rwanda in the middle of what's going on in the continent, we all have to collectively answer this simple question: how do we move 300 million people from poverty to the middle class? Which moves me straight to India. For certainly, when you arrive in New Delhi, this is one place that, as you've traveled all over the world, you could see countries are different. They have many different features, but India is unique. It takes on all of your senses. It's what you see around you, the beauty, the color, the number of people. This is a nation with over 1 billion people. When you see the types of smells from the curries, from the tapestry, and its own beauty. I had an opportunity to visit the Taj Mahal. But the amazing story about India is that it has gone from literally a country that was poor to now having a GDP growth of over 4.7%. It has successfully moved 250 million people from poverty. And this is a nation that when people all over the world talk about IT, they talk about Indian technology. It has become now the manufacturing hub of the world. Will soon take over that role from China, and ultimately, as it moves on in the next number of years, not only will it become the 4th largest economy, but stands the absolute prospect of become one of the larger ones in the top 3. So what are some key lessons in both of these? The first thing is you have to have a government that works. Our dilemma is that in South Africa, often our government speaks about what it tends to do, but it doesn't do what it speaks about. And so even when I think about the State of the Nation address, I often feel like it's just a reorganizing of some of the same promises that came from behind. Secondly, these are nations that are focused on what works for them. For Rwanda, it was about we're a tourist hub and we're going to attract IT infrastructure. That's why you see Visit Rwanda on almost all the Arsenal shirts and all the Arsenal stadiums. And in fact, I don't support Arsenal, but I'm impressed that here's some innovation that tells people to come and visit a nation. Now, if South Africa has got incredible tourist sites, not only Table Mountain, but our Kruger National Park in various aspects, why are we not focused and almost incentivizing for people to come in, making visas easier to come through? But more crucially, this speaks to what a government tends to do and tends to be intent on making sure that people can arrive. The second lesson is that both these countries were incredibly safe. Despite the what feels like millions of people in India, or you feel like wherever you're walking around, it is incredibly safe. People are with you. They kind of that the police are around, and that there isn't a sense of crime. And now here in our country, we have shown, we are watching the Madlanga Commission, we are watching the ad hoc committee that's telling us that the police are not longer in the business of keeping people safe, but are in the political connection business. And so this to me is about something we need to make sure that we give proper leadership and ensure that the country is safe. Thirdly, what I took away from India is that it's become, as I said, the manufacturing hub. That it is made in India, and of course they can sell it to their domestic market and also export. As South Africans, we need to think harder about how do we ensure that our domestic markets are strengthened, that we can invest in our own country, that we make sure businesses that are in our country, we are able to thrive. We need to take complete pride at being able to go, this is for us. This is something that is made in South Africa, and I'm proud of it. And then lastly, politics. Politics matter. Rwanda overcame a genocide. Sure, you might say democracy is not in place there. Paul Kagame has been the leader there for a long period of time, and to be honest with you, I keep wondering and thinking what would happen if he was to be removed, or as life happens, maybe as someone who, natural life leaders die. What happens post Kagame, for whatever reason there is? And so I think that institutional democracy is one of the ways that we can strengthen our ability to sustain what is happening in Rwanda, and I'm almost certain that's a question they would be obsessed with. But for us, it's the politics. It's the fact that we could keep reconfiguring government. You have a GNU, you have this. The truth is, we need policy reform. We need a government that's able to go, here's what we are implementing this year. Not that we've managed to get together. That sounds like saying we should live out of the 94 euphoria. As important as that is, that South Africa was able to transition, the actual work begins when you electrify communities, deliver water, ensure there's economic activity that drives. And so if we're going to get this right, it's not just going to be politics of just getting the GNU together. It's got to be, what plan do we table to ensure that things change and can transition? Our country cannot be left behind. If we really want to take a leadership role in the continent, as at least in the top 3 largest economies in Africa, we're going to have to make sure that we become that gateway, we become efficient, we deal with the politics of realignment by giving South Africans an alternative government that they can look towards, and ensuring that more than anything, that our nation is safe for every citizen to live and for the economy to grow, and that more than anything, my overriding mission and message is that when I arrived in Rwanda, despite the history of the Hutus and the Tutsis, everyone was first and foremost Rwandan. When you arrive in India, despite the caste system and all of that, it would feel everyone is Indian and is contributing towards that. Now, despite our very painful and brutal history, are we going to build a national identity that says more than anything, we are South Africans and we're going to do what is best in the interest of all South Africans? These are some key lessons that I take away with our committee, and certainly we'll be making recommendations going forward. I hope you're part of a journey that says, yes, 94 was beautiful. Yes, President Mandela is a hero. And yes, so many other things have happened that can make us all proud. But the world, funny enough, is asking us what's next for South Africa. Let's shape that. You can join our conversations as we try and figure out what tomorrow looks like. But now is a time, at the 31-year mark, that we answer the question, what future do we want as South Africans? What future are we willing to work towards? And what choices are we willing to make to achieve that? We answer those questions, I think we can make this nation a great one. Thank you.